vote. And for all of us here at CBS News, thank you and good night.
35.
What's the aftermath? Let's see the after show.
Okay.
The first and only vice presidential debate.
It is gonna be
this
tough.
election is now complete. It was a cordial debate of the kind that people mostly say they want. You notice here the two candidates lingering on the stage. That's quite a difference from the presidential debate, in which was not even sure that Vice President Harris and Donald Trump would shake hands. It was a debate in which the line, I appreciate what Tim said about Finland, was one of the many ways in which Senator Vance agreed with the governor. The governor agreed right back. But that's the tone and the kind of theater review of this. I'll pick out two issues. On the question of the top of the news today, which is the Middle East and the kinds of foreign policy surprises that hit any president. Tim Walz made the case that Donald Trump's temperament is unfit for any kind of surprise, cited the members of the Trump administration who have attested to that.
Shit, y'all.
Vance came back and said there were no wars during the Trump administration. On the economy, I'll make a political point, which is that what Vance did was something Donald Trump was incapable of doing during his presidential debate, which is repeatedly saying, if Kamala Harris was going to do these things, why didn't she in office? Now, whether voters buy that or not, Tim Walz mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act and a variety of other items under Biden. But returning to that political point has worked in the past for Donald Trump against Hillary Clinton. We'll see if it works this time. I'd like to make a final point on tone. The J.D. Vance on that stage was very different than what people may have seen in podcasts. But then there was an air of unreality about it. He talked about bipartisan solutions with nuance of a kind we never saw during the Trump administration. He talked about Donald Trump almost as the defender of the Affordable Care Act. Donald Trump tried to kill the Affordable Care Act. And then I think at the very end of the debate, we saw something extraordinary. Tim Walz asked J.D. Vance if Donald Trump lost the election. He was incapable of answering that simple yes/no question.
He said he thinks
J.D. Vance can only get so far from the man at the top of the ticket, and that was on display in that one moment, although J.D. Vance was a different kind of person than we've seen in many instances.
John, I think what you're saying is so important when we talk about demeanor because of the expectation that was hanging over these candidates heading into tonight. J.D. Vance came to the stage with the lowest likability rating of all four candidates at the top of the ticket. And I think many people came in expecting him to be Donald Trump's attack dog tonight. That's not the side we saw from him. There was a couple of compassionate moments even. You mentioned the word cordiality. We saw that from him very much. I also think it's worth pointing out the demeanor we saw from Governor Walz, particularly when it came to his moments where he was put on the defensive about his own biography and embellishments that he has made in the past, particularly in this case on China. You and I have talked about this a lot coming into this evening. Major, you're going to help us with fact checks over the course of the next few minutes. But there is a big one that we need to talk about at the top of it, which came on immigration in the discussion tonight, and particularly the Trump administration's plan, a major centerpiece of their campaign to undergo mass deportations for undocumented immigrants in this country. J.D. Vance particularly said that migrants will be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border one. This was in the conversation, this ongoing conversation about Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. Many of them are recipients of temporary legal status, and we just have to say, John, that they are in this country legally.
All right, we will be right back in a moment with more coverage of the vice presidential debate, and we'll fact check some of the claims made by both candidates.
Taxes in 15 years. That was a lie. That was a lie. All right, guys, we're gonna give y'all post-debate discussion.
What we think. What the Cartier family thinks.
You know?
It's that time again. Well, I'm gonna keep it 100. In my personal opinion, JD did exactly what he was supposed to tell the American people. He explained.
JD did well.
He gave an actual plan
well, JD,
where you could actually look at and be like, okay. And now I could look at both scenarios. You showed them different scenarios, how this can impact them if you do this or don't do this. And I respect it, man.
Do you think that Tim Walz being able to articulate the policies better than Kamala, is that gonna like?
I don't think he articulated well at all. I think he was
her.
scripted in a lot of those answers. I think he did better than her.
He definitely.
But
So what is that gonna? Is
do
that
I think
help her or is it gonna hurt her?
was I sold by his performance? No.
I think his performance helped Trump a lot.
Tim
Well,
Walz?
obviously, but I'm
No.
talking about as far as the votes. We
They're not-
obviously, I mean, Tim
Him
Walz
doing
is
well
a
is
pussy,
not going to make people vote for Trump.
I think it would a little bit because it could.
I think that
because like Kamala can like
used to
why
call
can't
him
she do
weird.
that? Like
no,
they're
we're not talking about
obviously-
JD.
They're obviously gonna
They was
realize that
calling
Kamala's
JD
just,
weird.
I know we're talking about Tim Walz. He said, "Is Tim Walz doing well going to help her votes?" And I
because
think
you can like
it's going to
kinda-
help Kamala.
It kind of exposes that she's just there for like the image, and she's just there to like.
But they're
make
gonna say,
Trump
"I
look
like that
bad.
person on." No, they're gonna look at it as, "I like the vice president on the ticket, so I'm gonna vote for that ticket."
Yeah, the vice president kind of matters too because they're gonna say
We seen like in this case, how we just talked about today, the vice president often has a swing vote in many things. So if they like the vice president, they're not gonna think, "Oh, well, I like them more than the president, so I'm not gonna vote for the president."
Why did Joe
They gonna
Biden
just
choose?
vote for the vice president?
Why did Joe Biden have to choose Kamala in 2022 after
We
it was
know
a
why.
bit- So you don't think that's like kind of the same
With
you
Tim,
know? Yeah, because
Tim's not black though. What is he gonna do?
Well, because Tim was the president
He
and
was
well,
the
not
what?
president, the governor in Minnesota, and that allowed all that stuff to
I
happen.
think-
And he stood.
Okay, they
with
back
them.
up. They back up. But I think that Tim Walz, he used like the governor thing really good because honestly, like if you think about it, he has had more power. Not more power than Kamala, but he has had an economy. He ran a pretty good economy in Minnesota. We got to keep it 100. Besides the woke stuff that he did do, I think he has more accolades than what Kamala actually has. Because the shit she's done in California is just not a positive thing for her campaign. Tim Walz was able to come up here and make some of the stuff he's done in Minnesota like a positive thing for the campaign. So
what
it's
did
like
Minnesota-
it's like you're gonna look at Kamala and be like,
let's go back to
yeah.
the
It's gonna look at Kamala. It's like, okay, well, why couldn't you do any of that about California and the stuff that you did? She's talking about my life as a prosecutor. What did you do positive as a prosecutor? You know, I don't know. It's still not up. It should. It was up though. It's up on here. What the heck am I on?
Ours is probably a little behind. There it is.
On? There's so many people talking right now.
Yeah, a bunch of people probably talking about it.
I'm trying to find this.
We need to go to the CNN panel.
These people are just as little.
President debate. In 1920, Warren G. Harding promised the country a return to normalcy. That's what this debate was. It was substantive, far more substantive on the facts and policy than the leading candidates, the presidential nominees, have been to date. It was, in a way, a kind of embrace of bipartisanship on tough issues, gun violence, health care, child care, even, well, this was less true, on reproductive rights. And one thing that I think will be a surprise to anyone in the Republican Party, the biggest secret of the entire Trump administration is that he saved Obamacare. It's a big secret because he never even said that. But this debate was an example to the country of how you can disagree agreeably, how you can talk about shared goals for the country. And in that sense, I think it's extremely important for J.D. Vance that he did not sound as he sounds on the stump. It was his biography and his appeal to bipartisanship that will be most distinguishing about not only his present, but his possible future.
They saying he could.
Answer your thoughts.
I think if you took a shot every
future
time
looking
you
bright.
heard the words "I
That's the next
agree"
president.
tonight, at the
To me.
table right now. This was a surprisingly affable debate for two men who we know from our reporting do not like each other. They said that they agreed on housing policy. They said that they agreed on some aspects of immigration policy, on pro-family policy. They were clearly intent on showing that they are likable, that they are agreeable for all the reasons, Cecilia, that you laid out earlier. The Democrats that I'm talking to feel fine about the debate. They're not doing cartwheels the way they were after the Harris and Trump debate a few weeks ago, but they think that this went well for them, and I predict that that exchange between Vance and Walz about whether Donald Trump lost the election is going to end up in a Harris ad by the end of the week.
Bob?
Both of these contenders came to the stage tonight being favorites of the base in their respective parties. Governor Walz was someone who went on television and called Republicans weird. Senator J.D. Vance was someone who would go on podcasts
like
with Donald
superhero.
Trump Jr. and other favorites of the right and say the left was essentially weird. Tonight on stage, you didn't hear a lot about that. you heard an approach to build on our colleagues' reporting and analysis here. It was about appealing to the middle. For J.D. Vance, giving reassurance to traditional Republicans, conservatives, that they have a place in this Republican Party, even with former President Trump. They might not like those traditional Republicans' his answer on the election, but they might like his answer on the economy and on border security. And for Governor Walz, it wasn't about being an attack dog. It was trying to make an overture to that centrist voter in a battleground state and say, hey, with Vice President Harris as a teacher and a coach.
Ed Gordon, quickly before we wrap, one of the big issues, though, was immigration, so much so that they shut the mics off at one.
Yeah, but I think the civility that we saw tonight may be a mistake by Democrats, quite frankly. I talked at the outset of energizing this base. I was just in Ohio, and many Democrats were livid about what's going on in Springfield. I think Walz missed an opportunity to really push the racial insensitivity there. There was a sense of trying to be affable, as John said. And I think what we're going to see from this point on is the civility being laid aside. And as we've said, from this point on, gloves are off, I think.
Major, you've spent a lot of time thinking about Donald Trump. How might he react to his number two?
So what Donald Trump will take away is the first third of the debate, where J.D. Vance made a very strong case that the Trump record on, was the world on fire, yes or no? No, it wasn't. Was the economy better? Yes, it was. Trump will be very happy with that. I think he will largely ignore and forget all the bipartisan appeals because they don't really fit within his orientation to politics.
Thank you, Major. There is much more to talk about. Our coverage will continue with instant reaction polls and fact checks. That'll be on CBS News 24/7. But for now, for all my colleagues here, good night.
JD. Woo! JD.
I think
when Trump is out that office, JD, you might get my endorsement, JD. Hey, JD.
It'd be a nice ticket. JD and Byron would be a nice little ticket.
Hey.
JD and Vivek, nice ticket.
Hey.
Much something we could do.
JD and Tulsi.
Nice ticket.
We
got a lot of nice.
Byron and
It's like you got a football team, you know, the starting corner nice, but the backup and then the freshman recruit, he nice too.
Alabama.
We got whoever out there, he gonna be ready.
Got people.
I'm excited to see what the liberal media has to say about this.
Me too. I want to see what the polls say.
Because, I mean, JD didn't mess up.
No, he did excellent. Yeah. That was an A+ performance from J.D. Vance. He stuck to his points. That's why he was upset. Remember when we got on here just at the same moment after the last one with Trump and Harris, and he was like, he didn't stick to the. He was basically kind of stressed. He was like, I wish he didn't talk about why didn't she? If all this stuff she's talking about, why didn't they change it? Why didn't she do it? He drilled that, and that is a major point that a lot of people in the middle will be swayed by. J.D. Vance today went out there and got votes for Trump.
No, yeah,
that's what you do.
I'm happy with it.
That was a great performance.
That was a masterclass.
Great job, young man. You went there, caught the football. You went 3 touchdowns.
This is a
Heisman
performance.
After the Trump debate, we was kind of worried.
I was worried. This is more reassuring.
But then after we watched the clips, he got to about, okay.
I still stand on everything I said about that.
He got to
I still stand on everything I said about that.
Trump did about a 7.58 still.
I still think he did whatever I said. It
yeah,
wasn't
but they baited him into it, bro. It was
they did. But JD wouldn't have took that bait. Sorry.
And I ain't gonna lie, they tried to debate. They tried to basically.
They tried to do it, and he didn't do it. He didn't go for it.
They tried to debate him.
He didn't go for
times.
it. He didn't go for it.
Yeah,
good job, JD Vance. That was excellent.
I thought they was gonna bring up the cats and dogs again. I was waiting for the cats and dogs.
He wasn't gonna do. He wasn't gonna be no.
Yeah, I think it's funny how they just keep bringing up Springfield, man.
Appreciate the chat too.
They never bring up like support. The stuff that people are like upset with Kamala about. You know, the big obviously the little things like from what she's done to prosecuting and the stuff that Tim Walz has done as far as the tampons and the stolen vote. They didn't bring up none of that. It's like
they didn't try. He wanted to keep it policy based, and that's what he did. He kept it all the name calling, the this and that. He kept that away.
It's not significant, but then they bring up some unsignificant stuff with Trump.
No. See, this is what they did. They looked at the debates they talked about. The things they debated about were the things that the American people said they cared about: the economy, the border, reproductive rights, these things. Overseas, the conflict, Israel, Palestine, all that type of stuff. So that's why they stuck to that, because that's what the voters care about. All that stuff, we don't like it, and that's just personal things, but you got to talk about what the voters care about. And that's why I like that they did, and that's why I think the Trump saying that with the cats and the dogs wasn't
Yeah.
The-
So,
the-
so how y'all feel about
No, it
how
didn't have the people in
CBS
the middle.
did? How did CBS do?
They did better than the last one, but
I didn't
still
really appreciate
slightly.
how they cut JD off for calling him out for lying.
So it seems still kind of riggy.
Yeah.
Slightly, but not as much as the last one.
for sure.
Well, I'm gonna
It's
keep it
only
at
so
it.
much
It
they
was,
can-
it
it's
was
only
just
so
as
much they
bad
can
as the
do. It's
last
only
one.
Nah,
so
it
much
wasn't
they can
just
do
as
They
bad
was
as the
only
last
fat
one.
checking.
It's only so much
The
they
last
can
one
do.
was worse.
That's facts. That's facts.
They was
last
just-
one was worse,
Might be
bro.
this-
They was just fat
The last
checking.
one, they'll sit there and say, so Trump did this, and that. How do you feel about that, Kamala?
Kamala?
Trump said this, and that.
They did that one time.
They did
They
that one
did
time,
that.
but they did that every single time to Trump. He was riled up.
Yeah.
But maybe it was just the way JD handled it made it not look as bad. But you could be right.
They did.
I don't know.
To me, in my opinion,
all I know is JD
it's the
did the
same.
best he could have did, and I don't think anyone else could have done. That was great.
That was a great
work.
job
Great work,
as
my
a-
friend.
as a
Great work.
VP.
Yes, that's what I like to see.
This is our post debate reaction, I guess, guys, and more stuff's gonna come out because I mean, when you're sitting here live, you really don't catch everything.
I think JD cooked.
We'll catch it as the days go.
Yeah. So, guys, be looking for the content, guys. If you haven't seen the full thing, it's on a live stream. Go over to the live thing. Well, let us know what y'all think in the comments, though, guys.
America.
We gone, guys. We love everybody in the chat, guys. This was lit, guys.
Born in the USA. Yeah, I'm born in the USA.